Awesome. So anybody who couldn't make this call, I am recording it for you, and that means you're watching it now because you couldn't make it or because you just wanted to have another look. Anyway, I'm Tony, and I was just asking Melanie how things are going on her end. So Melanie, take it away. What's going on in your world?
Sure. So things are going well in some areas, and then things kind of blew up this weekend in a bad way, and then we kind of salvaged things. So I think I told you guys last time that I am going after a grant, a USDA grant for seed money to get this thing started. And we were partnering with SCORE, but there were some problems with the gentleman that we were working with through SCORE that was a lot of red flags. He was basically kind of hijacking our story and using it in the media and saying that, saying things that were untrue to make them look good and like we were these underdogs that they were saving, when really it was the other way around. And to me, there were some unethical things going on, and I felt, oh wow, I can't move forward. My gut feels terrible. So I pulled my team together and we figured out how we could remedy the problem. And what we did is, one of our team members has been wanting to start a foundation for a long time, and he felt like this could be the opportunity where it could be internal versus having an organization that's outside of us. So it'll postpone or push out the project probably about 6 weeks before we can submit the grant. So we're media-wise, we're just going to be because we've had so much press on this already, and I felt terrible. Like, how am I going to remedy this? I don't want to make them look bad, SCORE look bad. So we're just calling it a transition internally that we felt would be a better fit for us in the long run. And so hopefully that goes over well. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you, but yeah. So we're in the process of making that transition right now. And I tell you, I'm able to sleep a lot better.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? I think it's something we haven't really talked much about at all in recent years, now that I'm thinking about it. But the issue of who you choose as your collaborator or your partner when it comes to this stuff is so incredibly important. And in the very beginning, it's very easy, especially if it's your first business or you're just getting started. It's really easy to kind of get hooked up with folks who might not be the right fit, or might be throwing up those red flags, or might have their own, their own agendas, especially when you deal in government-related stuff. I've seen that happen in New York a lot. Any government agency, everybody has their own kind of agendas that they have to fulfill, which usually you can just kind of learn how to navigate the bureaucracy and it's fine. But, it can kill a project if you find the wrong, if you end up making a decision to work with the wrong people at a critical moment. It can spell doom, and it's unfortunate because there are things that would otherwise have made it, but for the chemistry of the people who happen to, connect. And so good for you for recognizing that situation. I know emotionally, I'm sure that was very, very difficult for you to work through. And I'm glad that you're kind of doing the hard work now, because what you don't want is to, make a decision that you might end up regretting for years and years, where you have to deal with this person or the consequences of it for a long time. It's better you just, take the hit now and get yourself as situated as possible. And inevitably that's going to happen in some way. Somebody's going to break a promise, or somebody's not going to come through or deliver in the way that they expect to. And a lot of times it's innocent. Sometimes just life happens and tragedies happen and people disappear. And, sometimes you could have a situation where you have documents saying, hey, we're part owners in this thing. And then one of the people just goes away, and now what do?
Yeah,
So it's also a good reason to have find friends in your community who have legal expertise.
Yes.
More often than not, you should be able to find somebody within, 1 degree of Kevin Bacon of your community, of people who, somebody who's willing to do a little bit of pro bono work. And then it's a really easy value proposition for you and that person. You don't want to make it totally transactional, but it does make business sense if you have one person who gives you a little bit of pro bono time, and they really just have to be available. They just have to, be around. You figure, hey, it's going to be a decent amount of work in the beginning, and then after that, hopefully smooth sailing. But then that person is your person of record. And now you're going to have hundreds of small businesses go through your space. And if you can say, hey, legal services provided by such and such,
yes.
And whenever somebody asks for help or needs guidance, you send them their way. I mean, it's just good business. So do you have anyone like that?
I do. Yeah. She's, and she charges $300 an hour. So I was like, can we work something out? So yeah, she's on board for pro bono work for her one client this year, to do the pro bono work. So.
Awesome. You're the one.
Yeah.
How did you find this person?
Well, I have a women's networking group, and she's one of the few female attorneys in this community. And so she found us, and she showed up, and I said, well, I'm going to go knock on her door. And she fell in love with the project right away. So she said, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Existing communities. I mean, we keep coming back to it, right? The more you're able to make use of those existing connections, the better. So awesome. Okay. So what is next? Where do we go from here?
So, so we're making this transition. We have a couple of meetups scheduled. Some are some social ones, and then we have one that's real. It's a workshop. Our focus is to try and give people the experience of what co-working, all the different core values of co-working, what it's going to feel like to come together in these kind of situations. So, that's one of the main things we're focusing on right now, is just starting to build community.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we'll come back to that. Thanks for the update, and let me know if you have any burning questions kind of once we've gotten through our updates from everybody else.
Will do.
Martin, I've got you next on my screen, so I'm going to call on you and let us know how things are going. Where'd your advertisement go?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of work in my humble abode. Yes. So, well, on the homework, I made some progress on the articulating a higher purpose, hopefully, which I know you saw, Tony. Also made a start on the second item, start tracking the people who are involved. Yeah, I've got a list of 10 people so far. Not all of whom know they're involved, but they're, in my mind, they're involved.
Perfect. Excellent.
And tomorrow, I'm going to meet up with our potential landlord. We're going to have a tour of the 2 disused factory buildings, one of which we may become our place. So that's quite exciting.
Excellent. So are you going to be documenting that experience at all, taking pictures, anything like that?
Well, I hope so. I'm going to have to ask permission of the landlord to do that. But I intend to ask permission and to take photos as long as they give me permission. Yeah, yes.
Fair enough. The reason I'm asking is in my heady early days of starting the space in New York, one of the ways that I was very successful in getting people excited about the project before it opened was including people on my journey as I was looking for the right space. I found it to be really fun because you could, post pictures, and everybody loves to see pictures of a space, and they can kind of imagine what's possible and think about the address and, the potential price point and things like that. And so you could get some valuable feedback and also get some people kind of interested and excited in the project. So that might be a nice thing to send to those 10 people, and to start posting on social media and that kind of thing. If you don't currently have a social.
I'm still a little bit unsure as to how much to talk about the buildings before we've got an agreement with the landlord.
Is there a downside to sharing with people what you're kind of having a look at, even if you don't know if you're going to end up moving in there?
I don't know. It just seems a bit cheeky. I don't know whether I'm trying to win the landlord over, to say that this is a brilliant idea, and I just don't know if it's the right tactics to be sharing the ideas more widely before I've had those. We've concluded our discussions with the landlord.
Fair enough. Okay, so what I would suggest is, at the very least, definitely do get photos and whatever information you can, so that.
Yeah. Well, I certainly want to have photos for my own use anyway, because we need to
and then
think about things.
That gives you the ability also to share it privately. Like if you're meeting somebody face to face, you could say, "Hey, have a look at this. What do you think?" And it's always fun to kind of show off what's on your phone and see what.
Yeah, because within the next fortnight, I'll be meeting somebody I know who will be advising us on layout plans and furniture and things.
Awesome. All right, so cool.
To have pictures to show them.
And you got to share the pictures with us. We want to see too.
Yes. Well, I haven't seen the whole building, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I've only seen part of it so far, so.
All right.
Hopefully tomorrow we'll have a full tour of all the floors. And discuss
very exciting. All right. Thank you, Martin. Elena, I'm calling on you next, and then we'll have Jen.
Sorry, what is our, what do you want to know?
Hi, how are you? Just doing an update. So how are things going? What's the latest? What's the next step in your world?
What's not the next step in our world? So we're, 3 weeks out now from trying to open the Vibe Lab, or temporary space. So everything is happening. We're now officially kicked off of the Meshwork Ensemble platform. So I've just managed to get the last of the data off of that, and we're getting rolled over onto Cobalt, which is good, but I will say it's a bit, them being based in Berlin, like the time difference is challenging. So we're working through that. And that's meaning big changes and updates to all of our website stuff, which it's only myself and I, right? So that's all happening. We're working with the local public utility district to try to get fiber into the building and what that means and how we can do that and keep it economical. We are making a good bit of our furniture. So we're down in the workshop and making IKEA runs as well. And what else is going on? Yeah, it's like everything all at once, but it's good.
Okay. Any kind of like burning questions or issues that you're kind of focused on right now?
No, we're just kind of in firefighting mode, really, and trying to make sure that we actually have tables to sit on and chairs to sit on and that sort of thing when we're opening. But everyone's excited, which is good. We've got people that are signed on for permanent desks in the space, and that's the pressure as well, right? Because they've been in private offices elsewhere and they've given up their leases, so we dang well better be open.
All right, it's going to happen one way or another, hell or high water.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, congrats. It's really exciting.
Thank you.
Awesome. Jen, I muted you. I'm going to unmute you now. Welcome. Oh, there you are. Wow, look
Hi.
at that. How's it going in your world, Jen?
Good. Yeah. So I am starting, I'm hosting a meetup next week. So my big push for this week, sorry, I'm super distracted because my daughter's here at home. Which is why I need Day House to be open like now. So I'm hosting a meetup next week. I was intending to do a really big push for it this week, post Labor Day. Have been doing lots of social media sharing. I know that I mentioned this on the Slack channel, and Tony, you said I should personally invite people, so I'm going to do that. I also got to the space where it's being hosted to put up a flyer. Their flyer was really bad. I walked in there yesterday and I was like, oh, I can do a flyer for you. So I'm going to drop off some new flyers today. And I also am trying some Facebook ads for the event with some highly targeting.
Awesome. All right. Keeping things moving. That's good. Any big burning questions for you right now?
No, I don't think so.
All right. All right. Good. All right. We're gonna get back into some exercises in just a little bit. Charity, I've got you next on my list. How are things going in LA?
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't figure out this video on my laptop getting repaired. So, yeah, things are going well. Right now, we've just been dealing with a lot of similar to Alana furniture. So we've just been dealing with, setting up our AV equipment, putting up our stage for event space, and all the deliveries for our chairs and our furniture for our co-working space is starting to arrive. So yeah, we've similarly just been in firefighting mode, trying to get it all set up really kind of quickly. And other than that, I mentioned, we're having Jason Calacanis come and speak at our space later this month. So we're really excited about that and trying to promote as much as possible. I ordered some banners, and I'm trying to, finish all these promotional materials for our space. We're also promoting at a symposium around the area, and so yeah, we're just a lot of marketing materials and furniture moving in right now.
Moving a little bit.
Oh, really?
Wow, that is huge. That's really exciting. It seems like there's so much activity all of a sudden. Everybody's like cranking away here, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Cool. All right, so what I am looking at right now is that everybody here is working hard, which is great. And what I want to do is make sure that at this point, first of all, of course, the homework that we kind of discussed up to this point, that you've got as much of that in order as possible, but that you're setting yourself up as much as you can at this point to be bringing other people into the mix and looking for every opportunity to involve prospective members, prospective collaborators, sponsors, business partners, whoever they might be, in this process as you go, so that you're kind of minimizing the load on yourself and also giving as much opportunity for other people to kind of buy into the concept. And so what I'd love to hear is a little bit about how each of you is working to involve other people, and maybe one thing that you could do to do more to lighten the load on yourself and get more people involved. One of the things that happens in these calls is I get to talk to each of you. I don't know who else is behind each of your projects. And so I'd be curious to kind of know, I think I've heard all of you use the word we. Who is we? And how can we make we less we and more and more grand? Oh, hey, it's Charity. Hey. So I have a document that I'm actually working on adapting for our purposes for this conversation. And I'm going to probably send it after the call just because I want to actually get it looking really nice. But if you don't already have a document like this, I'd highly recommend using this one, just to outline who you're keeping track of and what their status is. And I'd love to see it. I'd love for you to share with me your little overview. And it could just be that you just kind of punch this down in a chat or in an email. And it's just, like Elena, founder, such and such, co-founder, such and such, investor, such and such, sponsor, such and such, excited prospective member, right? And you have that list of people. And if you're doing that, it's valuable for you. And then I get to see it. And, that provides kind of a nice feedback loop for us to work with. Does that make sense so far? Awesome. So I want to kind of open it up. I could ask each of you a little bit about what your thoughts are as far as this particular topic. What's the status of your collaboration with other people? Is anybody here totally on their own? Like there's really nobody else that they're working with? Martin, okay. All right. So we can start with you, Martin. So you've got those 10 people that you mentioned. You said they don't all necessarily know that they're on their list.
Half of them do, half of them don't. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Cool. So what are your thoughts as far as involving other people at this point? Do you like the idea of being kind of the lone wolf, like sole founder and owner? Would you like to find business partners or informal collaborators?
He's at work, honey.
Well, at this stage, I think I'm all right, sort of doing it a little bit on my own. But before too long, certainly before the space is fully up and running, we need to have many more people involved. And the idea is to run it as a social enterprise. And that means we need to have a board of at least 3 people who are officially in charge. Legally it cannot be just me, even if I wanted it to.
Okay.
I've got one person who I've had a couple of discussions with who runs a local business forum networking group. And he's quite enthusiastic, and I'm hoping he's going to be on the board of our social enterprise. But beyond that, I want to sort out a bit more about the space. As I say, I'm going to talk to the landlord, one of the potential landlords, tomorrow. That's a key question. I want to make some progress on the space before I involve too many other people.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is, how can you be kind of continuing these conversations both with the 5 people who kind of are already aware of what you're working on, and perhaps how can you kind of start the conversations going with those next 5? And the reason that I'm going to push you on this a little bit is because if you go far enough into the space conversation before involving other people, you won't benefit from the perspectives that they might be able to share in terms of the prospective market, what they're willing to pay for, what neighborhoods they would prefer over others, that kind of thing. And the more you're able to get people involved in that process early, the more information you'll have to help you kind of suss that out.
We have done a survey. A little survey which I got 15 responses on, just a survey monkey thing that we did on social media, and that did surprise me of some of the findings on that. So it was good, although it's not we need a bigger input, more people. The other thing, I occasionally go to a couple of business networking meetings. I have mentioned this concept of doing co-working space in Luton. I've started to get a little bit of feedback, But I've only sort of mentioned that because I go as a software person, and that's my main business, and that's what I'm mostly talking to people about. But I'm kind of thinking for next month's business networking, I'm going to forget that. I'm going to introduce myself as the founder of Luton Cowork, right? You know, and not talk about my software business. So, we'll see what.
Gotcha.
There's certainly a way of talking to a room full of 30 or 40 local business people.
Okay, great. Well, that seems like a good start. Keep us posted on how it goes. Does anybody here have a particularly good story of a collaborator or a group of people that they're working with who are making their lives easier right now? Maybe you could provide a little bit of inspiration for us. Melanie, I saw you raise your hand there real quick. There you go.
Yeah, I right from the start, I guess was attracting certain people who I started talking about this. I actually went to a university here called Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. They have a business development program called Eagle Consulting, and it's free to any local business that's a startup. They provide you with a whole team of people to help you, build your business model canvas and all that kind of stuff. So I worked with them. We put together this survey, and it went out in the community, and that in and of itself got a lot of attention. People started contacting me saying, I'd like to help out with your project. So I had to be, selective, like who do I really connect with. So I had to start meeting with everybody one-on-one to try and get to know them. But in that process, I picked up a business coach who is a project manager. I picked up a grant writer, a technology expert who just graduated from college, a creativity and content manager. She's a writer, so she's going to be handling our blog and any of our content that goes on our website. And a CPA came on board. And then there's a builder here. They've been here for 40 years. They heard about the project, and they offered to do all the tenant improvements at cost and all the design work for free, which was like, okay, that's awesome. And then we have an audio-visual partner who would like to handle all of the event center and podcast room stuff for us. And let's see. And then we just got approached last week from a company that owns a lot of property in the city next door, not even in this city, but they are offering a 10,000 square foot space for us to use. So it's just, there's so much energy around this, right? There's a lot of people who want to get involved. And so last week I got my team together and said, we counted up how many other people have offered to help. We went down that list, and we did a great big sticky board thing, trying to figure out where do they belong, how can they possibly help, and how do we get them involved. And so this coming Friday, we're going to break that down even farther, and how do we manage this whole thing, So this is a very good team to help me figure out how to do these things.
Do you have a picture of that? That sounds so cool.
I do have a picture of the sticky board. Actually, I have multiple pictures because I couldn't get it all in one shot, but I do. Yeah.
I would love to see it if you're willing to share.
Sure.
It sounds like a big inspiration. Okay, so take us kind of a few steps back, because I like where you are right now. Where you are right now is kind of like the dream for me of where I want to see all of us. And so I'm curious, rewind the tape. How long have you been getting active in your community? How did you get to the point where you have so many awesome connections and so many people so excited to participate?
Okay, so this whole thing started in January, and I picked up my first person in February who said she wanted to come on board. She was the business coach. And then, it's, I just started talking. I have this networking group that I have, and at every one of the meetings, I just started giving them my idea. Here's what I'm envisioning doing for this community. And the more I kept talking about it, other people started understanding, wow, this is a really great concept. And then that's when the grant writer comes up to me. She pulls me off to the side and she says, I can get you $500,000 to get you some seed money and get things going. And I'm like, okay. I'm not going to, turn my head at that. So she came on board, and then I just continued to keep talking. I started going to a lot of different other business networking groups, telling people, surveying them, seeing if anybody would be interested. And then I got a newspaper that came to me and said, we'd like to do an article on this and maybe even document the process of how this is unfolding. So every couple months we can do a follow-up and see where you are. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. So the more, people are talking, getting out there, that's how people are finding me. I am getting a flood of emails and phone calls from people that want to meet with me. And I need to figure out how to manage that, because it feels a little out of control. And that's why I had to have that meeting last week and say, let's figure out how to manage this better. Because I don't want to lose these people. I don't want to, lose the energy around this. I just need to organize it.
All right, so that's a great kind of a passing off topic, which is now you've got people coming in, maybe more than you really even know what to do with, and now what, right? It's kind of one of those wonderful problems to have. Does anyone have experience with this? Maybe not in the world of co-working, but just in general, when you've got kind of a lot of people coming in, how do you kind of figure out how to manage that in a way that doesn't overwhelm?
When you find the secret, let me know.
All right. I will give you, I was hoping that someone else was going to have something really great I was trying to detect if that was going to be one of those things where somebody here had an awesome thing. So my own experience with it, I feel like I really wish I could go back in time and whisper in my ear to make that a lot less stressful for me when I was getting started. But I think what it came down to for me was thinking of it systematically. You create kind of buckets of engagement. So if it's, let's say people who are interested in participating, they want to help out, and you've got like too many volunteers, then you don't know what to do with them. Awesome. Create some kind of a bucket to put them in where maybe once a month you've got just the volunteer meeting. It's the third Friday of the month at 2:00, whatever it is, right? You're picking something out of the blue. But then whenever somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'd love to help out, what should I do? It's very easy for you to just be able to say, oh, third Friday at 2:00, be there, right? And so that way it's just very easy for you to just kind of throw that at people when they come to, talk to you about something. And you can do this with tours too. So if you're going to have prospective members, and maybe you have an avalanche of prospective members, that's great. If you can spend all week just talking to prospective customers, then, it's not a bad way to spend your time. But if you do feel like you need to batch them up, I've had some real fun times consolidating prospective members into groups, which makes for kind of an interesting dynamic, because you've got yourself and whoever else is involved, but you've got these other people who are all interested in membership, so they have something in common. And these people also feel like they're not the only new people in the room. They've also got kind of other people that are also unsure of their status. And so what you can do is you can say, hey, you can come by anytime, we can set up an individual meeting, but on this day at this time is when we have a special people who are interested in membership thing. And then that way it gives you kind of a specific time to aim for. And I'm a huge fan of this also because people can be super flaky, especially when you work from home. It can be so hard, really. It could be so hard to put on pants and leave the house that you're like, oh yeah, I'll go for a tour of that space tomorrow maybe, and then it's like next week maybe, and then it's like never happens. If you can go to that person and say, hey, look, we're buying tacos for everybody on Tuesday. Can we count you in? That, that gives somebody, okay, well, I'm going to put it on my calendar. They're going to be expecting me. Yes, I will come. There was actually a space that I worked with in Boulder where we did this. The existing members already had a Taco Tuesday lunch date every Tuesday at 12:30 that, some cohort would go down there. And so what I would do is I would have the prospective members show up at 12:15. We'd have a conversation, check out the space, and then, hey, you want to come get tacos? It's on me because they're $2, so who cares, right? And then prospective member gets to hang out in a food setting with a bunch of current members. Gold, absolute gold. And again, it's also a nice community building expert for your activity for your existing members. So I would say, try to create buckets as much as you can. For one, I would say in terms of just logistical incoming emails, the amount of stuff that comes in, common questions, start creating templates. There's, if you use Gmail, there's an amazing plugin called Canned Responses. It's actually a labs component. I should be able to show you how to set it up, but I'm just going to double check and make sure that it actually is there. Yeah, okay. So can I do this right now? I think I can. All right, I'm going to show this to you just because it's so utterly indispensable. Why am I doing Indiana Jones? Okay, awesome. Share screen. All right, can you guys see this window now? Yeah, okay. So this is my Gmail, and I'm going to settings, and I am gonna let it load because my computer's a little slow. And then I'm gonna go over here to labs, click labs, and then there's this thing called Canned Responses. You can enable that, and then you scroll down and hit save. And then when you open up your email, you'll see that there is a little down arrow here, and you have Canned Responses. And then these things are just things that I normally type up a lot, and instead I can now just click once and boom, there's the email. So hugely valuable for you and for your team when someone's like, oh, how do I rent a conference room? Click, send. How do I do this? Click, send. Save yourself a bunch of trouble. I'd recommend create a Google Doc or a shared doc and put all of these things into that document along with instructions on how to set up the canned responses. And so that way your team, when you have a team, if you don't have one yet, but your team will have a really easy time just creating these things and setting them up in their own Gmail accounts. Wow, this is great. I love when screen shares end up having serendipitous new questions. So Jen was asking, what's the send later plugin at the bottom? That is part of Boomerang, which I've found to be absolutely life-saving to me recently in running this group. Boomerang lets you basically return emails to your inbox after a period of time. And it also lets you send emails not immediately, so you can delay the sending of an email. So I'll just bring that back up again. So I'm just gonna say, okay, send later, and I can say, send this in an hour, send this in tomorrow morning, in a month, whatever. You can even, that's a premium feature, the recurring message. But my absolute favorite thing is Boomerang the email to your inbox after a period of time if nobody replies. This is huge for me for sales. So I've already had a number of wins from this for this group. Might even be somebody in this group right now where we were exchanging emails and I said, hey, are you interested in this thing? And then I don't hear back for a week or two. And then I have it pop up back in my inbox. And before this, I would just send an email to someone, and if they didn't respond, I would just never ever talk to them again, which is madness, right? Now I have this email, that comes back to me if I know that they're somebody that I definitely want to keep talking to. Maybe they're definitely interested in membership, but for some reason they missed my email, they forgot about it, didn't get around to it. Really easy to just throw it back to your inbox. And then it's easy for you to just go back in there and say, hey, have you, given this any thought? Or you create a fresh invitation. So this is another thing I like to try to do is layer in different levels of invitation. You don't want to badger people who aren't really all that interested, but if someone does express a genuine interest in being in your community, then your first email could say, hey, let's set up a tour, which is what a lot of co-working spaces do, and then they never ever do anything ever again, right? Or maybe they get dumped onto a mailing list at the very least. But then maybe a week after that or 2 weeks after that, you can send another email and say, hey, we're going out to tacos on Tuesday. You guys, do you want to join? And it makes it really easy for someone to just reply yes. And then if they don't respond to that, maybe it can be another thing. But you can kind of always have like a new thing to invite people to. And it's up to you how aggressive you want to be about it. Like I said, what I try to do is I try to send out 1 or maybe 2 emails to someone who has like signed up for my list but hasn't actually talked to me yet. And then I leave them alone and if they want to stay on my mailing list, fine. If they've responded and say, yes, I am interested in this thing, then I'm inclined to maybe send them a 3rd or even a 4th email over the span of a couple of months. Because I can't even tell you, there's somebody who maybe I emailed 2 or 3 times and then I email them again just to check in and say, hello, how's it going? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I've been falling behind. I'm signing up right now. Like, whoa, awesome. So yes, Boomerang is absolutely gold, and it is free. There is a premium version that gives you premium features. I don't need the premium features, so huge fan of it. Charity, I saw you mention Streak. Do you want to say a quick thing about Streak?
I'm on mute. Yeah, so for Streak, it's a really great tool similar to how Tony showed it integrates with Gmail. And I can actually see if I can do a screen share with you guys. Actually, maybe not. That'd probably be too complicated right now. But you're able to manage your pipeline and create different groupings. So I have one for my event management pipeline as well as the co-working space. Prospective people, and then it just creates it in a list, and you can actually have it integrate with Google Docs as well. So anyways, it's a really great tool, and I utilize it on a daily basis, and I think everyone should check it out. A lot of people recommended it to me.
I like that this is turning into a let's share our favorite tool session because I think it could be super helpful. Are we vibing this? Are we liking this conversation? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any favorite tools that they're using that we might not all know about? Because I can keep going. Okay. So while we're on, since this became a tools conversation, I want to tell you guys about Zapier or Zapier. Anybody know about Zapier? Zapier? Okay. So
actually, I started using Zapier, and super helpful.
Okay, so Zapier is magic. It's actual magic. It uses magic. And what it does is it connects things that can exchange data. So for example, someone fills out your Squarespace contact form and that generates an email to you. Zapier can connect that to your MailChimp and put that person on a specific mailing list in your MailChimp automatically. So every time someone fills out this form, it puts that person in MailChimp and adds them to a Google spreadsheet. So, just all kinds of magical stuff like that. It could be that whenever someone fills out a form, it generates a new list of Trello tasks, in Trello, and then it's all associated with that person. So it can be super, super helpful in terms of just saving a few steps in your process. I actually don't know the extent to which the existing co-working space directory platforms are on it, but that would be very interesting to find out. I am just doing a quick search now to see if they're on there. I don't think that they are, but that would be cool if they were. That would be like, oh yeah, Cobot. Cobot is on Zapier. Let's see. Doesn't look like Nexodus is. anyway, it's really cool. It's a great time saver. You can also use it for sending automated emails. So you can say, after a certain period of time, send someone an email, or if a certain activity happens, spit out an email, that kind of thing. Huge fan of that. What else? What's another essential co-working tool? Okay, so Charity, that's how you're using it now?
Yeah, but there's so many integration options because there's literally thousands of apps, as you know, that work with Zapier, and I'm trying right now to figure out how to streamline everything. And since it's free, at least for two-step apps, it's definitely something to save me time instead of always having to manually I need to send this as soon as a member joins. I have everything just automatically done.
Awesome. Okay.
Going back kind of to the original question, when Melanie was talking, Melanie, I think actually you and I have loads in common also, just because of kind of the geography of where our spaces are. But in addition to kind of the day-to-day bombardment that might possibly be sorted out by some of these tools, in our case, I keep calling it the shiny object squirrel. Like, it's such a new concept where we are. That you get lots of people who are excited. You get all the property managers who are like, yes, I'm going to give you free space. Come be in my space. And I'm sitting here going like, okay, there has to be like some level of calming down. And how do we sort through these requests to have you in our building and invest in you and bring these people in and bring that people in so that we can grow sustainably? And I'm really curious. I don't know that there's the expertise within this immediate group per se, because I think all of us are quite new, but I'm looking at it being like, okay, when the honeymoon's over, and this excitement has rubbed off, where there's more spaces that have opened or whatever else, like, what does that long-term trajectory look like? Because I just see so much potential for like, yay, and then tomorrow, like, oh yeah, that was cool.
So I have a lot to say about this, because I was deeply affected by this when I was starting. And I think it was harder for me in part because it was still very new when I was doing it. So there weren't as many models to start with. And also because I was in New York and I was very young. I was like 23 when I got started with this stuff, which is silly. So erring on the side of being utterly ruthless. Like, you will be bombarded with all of the most random stuff. I've got a factory outside of town, not in downtown like what Martin's going to have, but like way outside of town. Or, what if you did a partnership with the city? Or, like, there's just like, people are going to have things. And the big problem is that so many of them are going to sound so good. Like, they're going to sound really, really good. Like, oh, if we did this, we could grow, we could help so many more people, make a bunch of money, like all this stuff. But then you end up spending hundreds of hours meeting people, writing proposals, going down this rabbit hole, and it takes you away from that laser focused mission. And it's bad news bears. Like, especially in the beginning time, you have to know what you need. Like, if you need sponsors, if you need investors, great. And maybe that does come with some complications, but you need to kind of set your boundaries of what do I need, and try to keep as tight around those as possible. This is part of why it's also good to have a really good sense of what your business model is, what your numbers are, so you know exactly what you need to do. And what you can say for everybody else who's interested is set a date. If you know that you're going to open October 1st, say, this sounds really exciting. I'm going to put a note in my calendar to follow up with you on November 1st. And then that kind of separates the wheat from the chaff too, because some people are going to kind of disappear or whatever. And maybe the real people who you are going to end up working with end up showing up. Because you can also say, hey, we're going to open October 1st. It's September 6th right now. I'm just making up these dates, right? I'll make a note to follow up with you November 1st. In the meantime, why don't you come show up in this community, help me get this thing going, right? Come to our party, help me get some members, whatever, and see who shows up. Like, see who's really willing to kind of put in the work with you where you're at right now, and who's really just kind of trying to get you to do their thing, because that does come up a lot too. But I would say really, err on the side of ruthless. Even I would say this is fun. Look out for it. Like, anticipate it right now. we can name it, right? The shiny thing. Say, oh, this is a shiny thing. Perfect. Now you can say, now you can go for it. We're not saying definitely don't ever go for the shiny thing, because sometimes that shiny thing is actually an incredible opportunity. But we want you to use your judgment, and we want you to err on the side of being really, really careful about it, and assume that the answer is going to be no, unless you really feel like it's a hard yes. And so the reason that we're going to call it shiny thing and we're going to give it a name is because it will help you feel less bad or less conflicted or less of a dilemma when you encounter it. Oh, there's a shiny thing. I know what to do, right? I've got it. I'm not going to let this impact my core mission too much, because I know it's a shiny thing. Maybe it can be useful, maybe not, but I'm going to acknowledge that it is a shiny thing first and foremost, and then I want to figure out what to do with it. And by the way, shiny thing comes along, you could just forward it along to our discussion group, and we can all give you input on what we think about it too. And so I think I am looking forward to your shiny things. I want to see your shiny things in my inbox.
So one shiny thing that I would love to have a later conversation on is the investor side. Because I've never dealt with that. And so we've got people who are coming up to us saying hey, I want to invest in this. And I'm like, shiny thing, yes, but no, but maybe. I'm not ready to jump in bed. How do we figure out, if we want that, which are the right ones, what that would look like? It's totally uncharted territory for me. And I don't know where to turn to figure out if this is smart and if it's not, and how do you find, I don't know. And I'm very aware that everyone wants a piece of us right now.
Okay,
Alana,
so that's. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for asking that. I have the same question. Yes.
All right. So this is a great position to be in, because being the one that everybody wants a piece of it. It's scary and stressful, but it's also really exciting. You just have to meet it, right? You have to meet it with your strength. So first of all, maybe I'll ask you a question first, Elena, in terms of where you see this going. What can you tell me in terms of the long-term vision for the project?
I'm going to have to keep it really quick, actually, because I got to run off to our architects here. But so I've met with anyone who has expressed interest, number one, just to kind of understand. And I've gone into it usually super cynical, really skeptical, and be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to keep my distance, but I'll listen. And there's one person in particular that I'm actually, it could be a really good match. But I've just kind of said hey, we're at such a point of, I don't know, unrest or transition right now. We're not ready to commit to anything. I can't even give you a proposal right now on what it would look like. But exactly as you've said, I've kind of invited them in. A number of them have become founding 40 members, and they're participating in different events and kind of groups and things. So exactly as you said, they're kind of staying close to us, and that's kind of developing those relationships as much for us to get to know them a bit. But it's I don't know how to, it's we've gone on our first date and I don't know what to do next.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I know you're short on time, so I'll just be quick, but I think date before you get married was exactly the direction I was going to go with this. The Founding 40 is a perfect example of it. So I think you're already ahead of the game in that, where you have a way for people to buy into the idea that is more than just, hey, I'll get back to you, which is what I did at the time when people literally were taking out their checkbooks. And I was like, I don't know what to do with you right now. I'll get back to you. And then, of course, it never happened. But it's not going that whole equity craziness route. So I think you're buying yourself some time by creating this avenue to say, hey, look, Founding 40, this is your way in right now. You could incrementally up that if you want to say, hey, look, we've got whatever the next level is, $5,000 and you get your name on a chair in the space and you get a lifetime membership, or, whatever, thing. You could come up with one level for somebody who's really hungry, and just give people ways to engage with you that you can build that relationship, build some trust, get to know each other, and then just buy you some time. And I would say, you're running a business. The business, you really do need to absolutely make time to work on the business and not in the business. So I don't think we discussed this yet in this conversation. It was in some past video call, I think before most of you joined, but setting a time in the calendar on a quarterly basis, putting it as a recurring thing at least on a quarterly and maybe a smaller thing on a monthly, for you alone and or you and your team to just step back from everything, turn off your notifications and look at where is this going in the long term, where are we at right now, and what are the priorities and what are the things we need to do. And then that gives you an opportunity to perhaps invite people in as advisory members or as board members or things like that, to be able to say, okay, once every 6 months or once every 3 months, whatever, we're going to have a little advisory board meeting. And anybody who's bought in at the X level is invited to participate. And so that way there is kind of an increasing management structure that goes around you, so that when maybe you've got a room of 5 or 10 people who are all interested in investing more significantly in this project, you now have a brain trust and you have some structure in place to be able to say, okay, our plan for 2018 is we're going to raise $500,000 and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to, intend to put a down payment on a building or whatever, like whatever that timeline is, but you're creating a structure to kind of, it's another bucket, on that higher end of, people who are at that level to say, okay, hey, we're going to do a quarterly advisor meeting. And anyone who's involved in the various levels is invited, and would you like to join? And then that gives you at least a starting point. And I use the word advisory meeting because it can be informal. It doesn't have necessarily any formal decision making or equity power, as opposed to like a board, which you can also be setting up. But I like advisory group as a starting point because it's really easy and it could pave the way to a more formal relationship. The League of Visionary Vibists. All right. Do you have time to explain it, or you got to jump next time? Yeah, you got to go. Okay.
Sorry, I got to run.
That's okay.
Thank you. I'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Elena. All right.
Look forward to continuing.
Okay. How's this going for everybody else? Any kind of last minute thoughts? Is this valuable? How's it bouncing off you? I'd love some feedback.
Sorry, no, this was very helpful for me. Because I am very similar to what Alana is facing as well. So this was the buckets. I like it. It brings some order to my brain because everything just is all over the place. And anything that can bring order, simplicity, a place to put things, the different buckets, very helpful. And I can see where I have where this is going to help me in my next steps as we're trying to figure out what to do with things. So,
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, great. Yeah, I'll make a note to follow up with a little bit of this in the next email I send out to the group. And man, I want to figure out how to create like a little blog post or a resource around shiny thing management. So.
Yeah, that would be great because I do. I kind of my eyes start doing this thing where, I got all these people making these great offers and I'm like, Alana's like, yeah, I can't even talk to you about that right now. I have to put that over here and get back to you.
Melanie, do you have sponsorship levels set up for your group now?
I'm working on that. I'm in the process of getting the sponsorship levels down.
All right.
Don't have it complete yet.
Did you see the document I have for that?
Was that in the initial toolkit?
It is in the toolkit somewhere, yeah.
Okay, so I'll have a look at it again. I've gone through all of it, but I'll pull that up.
Awesome. Yeah, just in case it's helpful. The reason I'm saying is just because when those things come at you, I feel like it helps so much if you can have a thing to direct them to say, hey, that sounds great. I look forward to talking to you more about that when I'm at the other end of what I'm focusing on right now. In the meantime, if you'd like to get involved, here are the opportunities we have available for you. So, you kind of put it in their court that if they want to work with you, if they really want to work with you, then they have to do so on your terms for right now. And you know what? I've seen this. I've dealt with a lot of very successful people in New York City. And one of the things I've noticed is very consistent among them is that they are friendly and polite, but they are utterly ruthless about their boundaries. And they will say, I'm focused on this for the rest of the year. I'd be happy to talk to you about this in January. And that's it. It's like that's the thing that they probably say to 90% of the emails that come into their inbox, right? When they know they need to focus on a thing, and they might say something like that. And when you get that, it's like, wow, all right, well, thanks for letting me know. I guess I'll make a note to email you in January. And I've had that happen, you know? And, you know, it can be a little bit off-putting, but I totally respect it and I get it. So, yeah, I would say, or even better is you say, hey, I'm totally focused on this for now, but this is how you can be involved with me right now. So we're not cutting it off entirely. You know, hey, there's ways you can be involved. I would love your participation. Here are the 3 ways you can participate right now. And let's just keep in the, you know, keep the connection alive, and maybe this opportunity will become something more later.
I like that. That's a great idea.
How you doing, Martin? Any closing thoughts before we call it a day here?
Not especially. There's always some useful bits. You know, not everything applies, obviously, at my early stage of this venture, but looking at a few useful things along the way.
Neato. All right. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you guys. We had some fun today.
We did. Thank
Awesome.
you. Very helpful.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll check in on Slack next week, and we'll be on video again in 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
Awesome. Keep being awesome, guys, and hit me up if you need.
Okay, will do.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.